But Jannik, I was gonna ask you, yeah, like, can you give us the sort of 2, 3 line sentence on, or sentences on the company and yeah, and how you got connected to Jack?
Yes, so I think our journey started roughly around 5 years ago when I was yet working at Philips, so consumer electronics, selling toothbrushes and hair dryers online. And this channel was just a very small within the Philips universe, but it grew quite rapidly then from 5 to 40 million in the online channel for the German market. And during that time, when I was responsible for that channel, we recognized that oftentimes marketing and operations are usually misaligned between which bestsellers are we scaling and promoting on TV ads, and what are the ones that we need to buy to make sure that we can actually fulfill that demand. And from that problem observation, Voids started because I was really having a pain in the ass of this misalignment in the, so to say, forecasting and S&OP process. And we figured out that the companies to target on this problem first, Reshop, would be brands that suffer from this the most. And it's not the Philips of the world. It's not the Colgates or whatsoever, the large enterprises. It's many of the SME companies, smaller, for example, Shopify brands with a revenue of 10 to 100 million, so to say, who bring not a lot of expertise oftentimes within the forecasting and ops part, and really require, so to say, an accurate forecast that they can rely on. And this is what we provide. So Voids is right now forecasting around 1.5 billion in net revenues for our clients across Europe. And our current stage is that we are planning now to expand into new markets, potentially also US in 2026. So team, I'm really looking forward for this exchange and nice to meet you. I'm one of the two co-founders of Voids, Jannik. The other one is Toby. He's the CTO of the company, and we're a team of 10 people and trying to rock that part to make SME companies and consumer brands' lives easier.
What's the reason that you want to expand to the US potentially? Is it just that it's a bigger market? Is it that you feel like you've like done the work that you want to do in Europe? Yeah, I guess like I'm like immediately curious when someone says, "Hey, we're doing this thing and we want to now go here." It's like, is it push? Is it pull? Is it a combination?
Mm, so for sure, it's a big bet and a very risky one for us because I think we do a quite good job here in Germany, especially. So to say, 90% of our customers yet come from Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And what I can say is that the observation that I made is that at least 90% of brands are yet planning entirely in Google Sheets and Excel. And this is something that is not solely limited to the German or Austrian or Switzerland market or brands from UK. This is also something that we've seen quite a lot for US brands that I've been talking to. And I have to say that the, so to say, ICP that we target right now is quite a small one, actually. It's 500, 600 brands in Germany, mostly. And for sure, this is something where we have a relevant market share soon of, so to say, 20, 25%. But this gives me a little bit of the indication, Rishab, that I rather would like to scale into a different market instead of building a horizontal tech stack where I'm scaling across Shopify, Magento, and Shopware or many other platforms. And this is why we look into the next stages, but very at the beginning. Nothing majorly rolling out yet.
So you're already at around 20% of your ICP, you said?
In the German market, I would say this is where we are right now, close to exactly. And I think it's difficult to, it's difficult to close all the brands, right? You cannot really convince everyone to become a customer. It's nearly impossible. And now, after 3 years, after founding the company, I think we are in good touch with most of the relevant players. And now it's the question, hey, where do we head to next? And just as a comparison, what we see that there must be at least plus 10,000 brands of the relevant size in the US. So team, really looking forward to your feedback, your expertise, and also honest feedback in terms of, hey, how relevant is the problem that we are solving for brands in the US, for example?
I think for me, it's just becoming more and more clear that I need to go like spend like 2 or 3 months in Germany to figure out what the fuck's happening. Because we had like Niels on the podcast with Perspective, and like they built Perspective to like 10 million ARR only inside of the German market. we have like a lot of our largest customers are in the German market. And I don't know, it just seems like there's a whole like world built within a country seemingly inside of Germany. And so it's, I don't know, like it seems like it's like, no one's been able to explain it to me all that well. Like I've asked people, why is there so many advertising agencies in Germany? Because if you look at it on like a per capita basis, it's like way oversubscribed. And so maybe you could help answer this question as to like seemingly why Germany is such like a great place to like start companies that's like, especially in like this SMB, it just seems like they're like, I don't know what it is, like, because it's also like not like a language barrier, because every German that I speak to like also speaks very great English. So I'm super curious, like your perspective, like what's going on over there?
It's interesting, Zach, if you would ask a German founder, they would say, hey, the US is the dream to start your own ecom agency or consumer brand. And we would say that our market is astonishingly small. So it's interesting to hear that from your side.
I'm not saying that it's a large market. It just seemingly is. And like this could just be like anecdotally a phenomenon in terms of the people that I've connected with that's making it feel more real than it is. And like it could be coincidence, but like I don't hear that from like France or Italy or like even the UK.
Yeah, the only other one that I hear, Zach, is Australia, honestly.
Right.
Like literally I hear Germany and Australia. I end up with the same question, which is like, it feels like there's something in the water in these two places.
I sense that the good thing is that if you want to enter the German e-commerce market with a software solution or an agency, it's a very small network of maybe 1, 2, 3,000 relevant players, and they all know each other. So once you've hit a certain threshold, it's so to say, self-fulfilling prophecy that people will get to know you and you will get in touch with the right people. If you hit a certain level of, hey, we're solving a relevant problem and you're doing this quite well. And this is what happened to us, Zach. So in the beginning, it was a complete nightmare because I knew nobody in that space. And I had those kind of first referrals ongoing, asking wildly on LinkedIn, hey, do you have time to chat for expert opinions on what we do? And that is just 3 years ago. And I think, Zach, you are right. The market is very nice if you then hit your checkmark your first stages. And because I would say in the last 12 months, we've grown with around 400, 500%, and now are close to 2 million ARR. And the next stage would be potentially hitting that 10 million ARR in software sales per year. And especially the last 12 months were nice because this market is, so to say, having this dynamic of referrals from one friend to the other. And it really works well here.
Got it. So it's like a really solid ecosystem. And I get the feeling that German companies do prefer buying from German companies. Like I've heard that from other software companies. Like they look for a German solution. Is that something that you think is true?
I hear that about French companies selling to French companies or buying from French companies. And I think it's something which I have not observed too much, I have to say. But I would say that in Germany or in the German e-commerce market, which we are majorly serving, it's this advantage and disadvantage at the same time. If you fuck up something and it goes around, then everybody knows it. And this is why it's so important that we do not fuck up on the forecasting quality and the service that we provide, because they have all their WhatsApp groups. And when I know already for a fact, when we fucked up one use case, there's a screenshot shared in 5 other groups and it goes around, and then I have to fix it again. So this is really the, so to say, advantage and disadvantage of that network that we are working in. Yeah.
It actually, it sounds to me a little bit like, if you, like in the US, there's almost like different pockets within that market because it's so massive. So you've got like your DTC Twitter crowd, for example, which is like, if you break into that group, you can move very quickly, but that's just actually like the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's available there. So yeah, it's this idea of like, once you get into, you get you get enough connections within a subset of the market and you can grow quickly within that subset of the market.
If you're coming to the US, that is not the market that I would start with for what little it's worth. And I'm sure I'm going to get roasted for saying this out loud, but I think, and maybe this can now like pivot a little into like what strategy you're hoping to deploy in the US, but I guess it depends a little bit on what you're hoping to accomplish. But Jeremiah is exactly correct. There are like, it's such a big market that actually there are many pockets of it, and many of those pockets do not know that the other exists. Like, not only do they not talk to each other, they don't even know that the other one exists. Like, to say that there's a ecom Twitter market, there's like tons of people that don't even know that that exists. So forget about like talking to them. And so I think the question is like, everybody wants growth, but like, what are you hoping to accomplish longer term by coming to the US is really the question that you want to answer. And then based on that, you should figure out what strategy to deploy in terms of how you grow in the US, right? Because like we had PJ on from Judge Me, and like, dude, this guy, like, he's like a machine. He like does not care what pocket you are in. If you are on, like, his view is if you are on Shopify, you will download my software, right? Like, that's how he views the market. And the consequence of that statement is that he has optimized his whole business around getting recommended by Shopify, which is like, the clarity of that strategy was insane to listen. I don't know how the other guys felt about it, but I was like, I was very impressed, honestly, in that conversation. But yeah, I think it depends a little bit on what you're trying to do in that expansion in the US.
So my most honest answer is I don't know yet. What we've been doing in the last 8 to 12 weeks, Rishab, was speaking to opinion leaders such as maybe someone like Nick Shackelford or others, so to say, in that range, who are, for example, founders of larger, for example, performance marketing agencies that serve exactly the same ICP that we want to help. And this is also, Rishab, what we did in Germany first. We spoke to those who are, so to say, suffering from brands not really knowing how much they will sell and how much they need to buy. So, for example, one of our large investors would be Touchpoint. They are the largest Google Ads agency in Germany for Shopify brands. And they started talking to us 3.5 years ago when the platform didn't really exist, and said, hey, once you fix this, let me know, because we cannot scale our ads and, so to say, get everything out of the upside of scaling products, because our customers, they simply don't know that they have to reorder in time to actually being able to fulfill that scale. And this is why right now our strategy a little bit looks like talking to people like Nick Shackelford or other, so to say, founders of performance marketing agencies, because they would benefit a lot from their customers knowing exactly what to buy and when, so they can scale all these, so to say, marketing channels as efficiently as possible. And it works out quite well, actually. It's crazy to see, because so many of these partners that we talk to in US, they are quite open, and they say, hey, let's get this list going with the Google Sheet list. I hit all my, so to say, accounts that are under management in that list, and you just pass with me through it to make direct introductions. And we are close to, so to say, that stage of maybe the first 5 to 10 partners, Rishab, that really refer us from the bottom of their heart. Maybe that's a strategy if you want to call it that way, but it worked out very well in Germany, and it starts to work out now for the first steps.
I like this reputation-based growth and just actually providing supply to the market demand. I think that this is, at least from my cursory glance, how Germany is become such a great market, right? It's by making stuff for other people, which is very different to the United States. I think part of why the US is so attractive is because it's just such a good market, right? There are so many people to serve, but there's also that other piece of the US market that's probably attractive to a lot of software companies, which is capital, right? There's just so much cash.
What would Zach or the rest of the team, what would you recommend me to do? Because, so to say, like if you were in my shoes, because Rishabh, from what I hear from your first impression, it's like, hey, it's too early. It's so to say, it might be.
No. I'm
Let's
not suggesting that at all.
phrase it that way, But it sounds to me, hey, be aware that this market is huge, and that self-interest of network effects, they have to be balanced out very well, because there are so many different separated networks from each other.
Well, I
Well-
love the approach that you're coming at it from, because when you run an e-commerce brand, there is a real problem that you're solving. Unless you're drop shipping mass-produced products, you have to take inventory, and that inventory is going to represent inventory risk, right? Overstock risk and stock out risk. If you buy too much of the wrong product, you might end up with dead stock. I know a lot of people who have made that mistake. I don't know. I remember this one founder. She bought like 10,000 candles. No one wanted to buy her candles. She's like, Jack, what do we do with all these candles? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what we do with these candles. But if you buy too little of the right product, and I think this is one of the ones for the types of brands that you're speaking to, and you stock out, you're going to incur an opportunity cost. And on top of that, especially right now, with Black Friday and the inflection point of sales velocity that people see, which makes everything so much harder to predict, you probably spent too much on marketing, right? So this isn't just a problem that applies to the founder, it's all of operations, the marketing teams as well. Because you can imagine if you're on track to run out of stock of your bestsellers and your marketing team is just blasting budget on ads to your bestsellers because they have the lowest CAC and the highest ROAS or whatever metric they're using to guide their decision making. You as a business owner are trading profitability on every sale in exchange for sales velocity, right? You're saying, I'll sell these products faster at less profit and introduce that additional marketing cost, right? That's unnecessary. So I think this approach is the right approach. Maybe it's, ecom SaaS isn't the best market out there, and there's different software products that are much more attractive. But man, you're solving a very important problem for people.
When you say we're getting ready to move to the US market, what does that mean for you when you unpack that statement? Like, is there a specific hurdle right now in which a US e-commerce brand cannot buy your software, or is your biggest issue that you don't have awareness?
I think on the tech side, it's not a very big hurdle, because we would exactly target the same ICP as we do here in Germany. Maybe they have a slightly different setup, because a US brand that makes 10 to 15 million might be also selling not entirely only on Shopify, but also maybe other marketplaces such as Target and Walmart. And then you need to have a slightly different setup. But I have to say that Zachary, half of our customers are selling multi-channel, so on Amazon or maybe offline retail as well, and we forecast that as well. So in FC Bayern, they're not entirely just forecasting with us the online shop where they forecast the Harry Kane tricots and jerseys, but it's also how much they sell in the stadium. And so to say, I don't see that this should be a big blocker.
Right. Yeah, so it's just I mean, like, if what worked in Germany was having really good partnerships with agencies, like, I feel like you have the infrastructure in place to do that. Like, that's just kind of what I would do. And then are you guys like PLG, or do people need to talk to sales to even sign up?
Yeah, so it's not product-led growth. I would say it's much more so to say, when you say awareness, it's not just getting into conversations with founders of brands. It's also explaining to them, hey, you've done a great job scaling your brand until 10 million, but you will hit a certain threshold that you cannot surpass if you don't find a scalable operations process. And it's also a lot of education that we have to put into the conversations to explain to them, hey, for some of them, if you don't solve this, it will always be limiting your growth and your profitability, because you will continuously run into manual fuck-ups with your Google Sheets and Excel system. So I would say that there are many founders that are not yet fully aware of how much profitability they are leaving behind. And then we have other cases where we can prove how much can be done. I give you an example. We had the fastest German e-commerce, growing e-commerce brand of the last 20 years. They have been just started roughly last year and have been now scaling beyond 9 digits. And for a German brand, that's a fast growth when it's bootstrapped. but they were only able to achieve that because they had a stock reach of 30 days and availability of 97% on 4,000 SKUs. So think about it. A team of 20 people, bootstrapped, 0 to 9 digits, within 12 months on 4,000 SKUs, 30 days of stock reach, and 97% availability. And for us, that was the first time where I was thinking, hey, fuck, if we can allow a German founder to achieve that, why not giving other founders around the world the same access to the same technology? And yes, it's a lot of work in explaining how it's done and teaching them how to use the platform efficiently. We should bridge that gap ASAP. But that's at least my proof point, which I take to now be brave enough on the next step.
I love that. I was thinking about this earlier with AI products and how AI products require a fair amount of input, and the problem that the average consumer or user, even if it's a prosumer of AI products, has is that they actually don't know what to ask for. They vaguely have an idea of like maybe the business case, the goal that they have that they want to solve, but they have no idea like the incremental steps to get there. And I guess it applies across a lot of technical products where the full reason to opt into the product, the opportunity cost problem that you solve, is maybe not understood. You have to get through that as education before the sale can happen.
Hey, sorry, I was just trying to understand, is the person who feels the pain of the problem you solve more the operator, or is it the agency because they want to be able to spend more for the brand? Like, is the reason the agency partnership works so well because of that thing you said earlier, which is you can spend more if you can forecast better? And the reason I'm asking is I'm just trying to understand, like, yeah, why does Nick care, basically, right?
Yeah. So I sense that our sweet spot person that can relate mostly to the problem that we solve is oftentimes actually the founder, because they will understand that, or usually planning and forecasting is usually a so to say founder task until a very late stage of a consumer brand. I have so many founders that I talk to that make plus 20 million in net revenues, but they still do this. They have a team of 25 people that work for them, but they still plan and forecast everything themselves. And I sense, Rishabh, the reason for this is because they know how important it is that this works. But at the flip side, sometimes it's challenging for us to show them, hey, you have right now a stock reach of plus 6 months, and it could be 1 month, and that's six times the working capital that you need to fulfill the same demand. And the flip side, you have maybe an availability of 85%, which means that 15% of your net revenue, more or less, across the year is lost due to out of stocks. And for us, the one side, the marketing agencies are the ones that refer us very actively because they know, hey, we can scale ads more efficiently and you solve a problem for me. But also what in Germany, the marketing agencies are oftentimes the closest trust relationship partner of many ecom brands. And this is why it works so well, because they know the pain as well. When on Black Friday, they want to, get everything going, and then at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, everything is already sold out, and they are like, what do we do now? All the, so to say, activities have been in place, but we couldn't really win. So I hope this answers your question.
That's interesting because, so if I understand correctly, the primary stakeholder ends up usually being the owner operator. Is that correct? And do you find that in cases where the owner operator is the primary person using this, do you find that the way that they use it is different than if they have, if a e-commerce brand has somebody who's dedicated towards that function? Because and I'm asking this because I suspect that the owners may be even harder to work with sometimes, because they're probably a little bit more inclined to just be like, yeah, that's what the data says, but I actually think this, right? So I'm curious how you do that, because I feel like owners in general are just more likely to behave that way.
Yeah, it was also a journey for us, Jeremiah, to understand if you talk to an ops manager or a buyer, supply chain manager, how to sell the solution to them instead of the founder, because it's a completely different story. The one part is I have to say the operators in brands, they oftentimes are much more interested in how much time can you save me. And our value proposition is, hey, we give you back 90% of your time to make the difficult decisions better and more efficiently. And they're like, oh, finally, because I'm wasting so much time across the week. While the founders, they are just interested in profits and how much cash we can give them back. And then it's a completely different selling story, right? And the challenge for us is, Jeremiah, because that it's an advantage and a disadvantage. We solve a very, very big problem for the brands, and it can have a huge cash impact and revenue impact. But the flip side, our solution is also not very cheap. Maybe you did your research, but to give you an example, there might be simple Shopify apps that cost a few €100 per month. We have a few accounts that pay us 20, 25, 30K net per month on solving this problem for them. And that's on the one side very nice, but you also have the flip side that you really need to translate. Hey, your ops manager maybe earns 40, 50, 60K, and our solution costs more than they do. But still translating, hey, the problem that we solve is so much bigger, so it will pay out 10, 20x for you anyhow. So why don't you solve it with us? And so we don't need a lot of accounts to scale to a certain size, which is great. And we chose this pricing that way. But at the flip side, it's also the constant exchange, Jeremiah, hey, how do we translate the value add that we provide and keep customers happy? Because we also had a few customers that scaled from 4 to 20K net on a paying monthly basis. And that's a journey, right? Where they see the bill of 4K starting, and then after a few months, it's 20. And they're like, oh, I'm paying 20,000 euros for a software solution. Can you explain to me? They get the value, but it's a constant also journey for us to explain to them, hey, this is where you get your money out, and this is why you should really continue working with us.
I like that. You contextualize the cost of your software against labor and the benefit, as opposed to other software, right? If other software is only $200, you can't be put in that same category. You have to be in the category of labor. You have to be in the category of what is the benefit that the business is getting, right?
I want to hear Jeremiah and Zach's feedback on this. Do you guys think that if he starts with, I'm using Nick illustrative, but like the people who are popular on Twitter and their agencies, that this pricing model will work with that go-to-market?
I don't think it would be drastically well received.
Yeah.
But I also don't like when you say $20,000 a month, like what is the size of that business?
Yeah. So it's a range, right? Our average rather is a customer that makes, I would say 4 to 5K net in cost that we charge for the software solution. And the 20K would be rather the brand that makes 50 to 100 million in net revenues.
What would like a $25 million a year software company pay for it?
So you mean a 25 million net revenue consumer brand that we help?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like what would their expected bill be?
Yeah, I would say between 5 to 6K net
a month?
per month, roughly.
And
yeah.
does that mean that they don't need an ops manager or like an inventory person anymore, or what?
Yeah, I would say what we help them is providing a, so to say, solution that allows them to scale with one person on towards 9 digits without building up a team of 4 to 5 or 6 people to achieve more or less the same. Anyhow, I would say that it's almost impossible to be as fast and accurate as the system that we provide, because it updates every day more or less. The forecast has much more depth and granularity that as you can get into for, I don't know, a portfolio of 2,000 to 3,000 SKUs, which you need to manually check in Excel and override with your own assumptions, such as seasonality, historic out of stock effect, Black Friday, Monday peaks, product life cycles, etc., etc., etc. And these are all those kind of granularities that we bring into the system with our solutions. So to come back to your question, I would say helping the brand scaling from, for example, 20 to 100 million with one ops manager, that could be a good value proposition that we've also seen doing well. Yeah.
What's the entry point on your pricing?
It's around 1 to 2K per month.
Average is 4, right?
Yeah, the average is rather 4 to 5. Yeah.
I'm going to risk sounding really stupid, but in case there are any e-commerce brands that are watching this, I don't know why they would be. But like the quick
We
rule
hope
of thumb.
not.
No, there is. No.
Oh yeah.
Are you?
There is.
Wait, are you sure?
I went to like a Basel event yesterday with a bunch of e-commerce brands, and multiple people were like, "Oh, I listened to the podcast," and I was kind of like, "Why? Like, why?
Dude,
the fuck
you
are
want to? That's what I want to know too. This is for us. You guys should listen to the other operators. Yeah.
Right.
No, I'm kidding.
But
Sorry.
but
Sorry.
I
Go
mean,
ahead.
like the quick rule of thumb that I have in my head is that days of supply should exceed your lead time. So the idea being, if you have 100 units, you sell through 10 a day, and you have 10 days of supply. In 10 days, you're going to be out. But if your lead time is 30 days, then you probably should have reordered at least 20 days ago, right? That's like the little rough, touch that I've had with it. But then I think that there's brands out there, and maybe some that are listening to this, they're thinking, well, sometimes we have a creator on TikTok shops, or just something happens, and maybe it's hard to track what it is, and we just sell like nothing else, right? We just sell through units, right? And our scales skyrocket. How do you forecast that? How do you plan for that sort of thing, where there's just a very acute, because this is normal. I should say that this isn't like rare for e-commerce brands. Any e-commerce brand that's got to the size that we're talking about has experienced this at least once, right?
Yeah. It's the same question as, hey, Corona hits, how do you predict that? Or we have a Ukraine war, how do you predict the drop in demand or the spike? So I always say, hey, we're not the oracle of Delphi, like there are certain things that you cannot really forecast and predict. And it's not about us forecasting the future perfectly. It's rather, how much can we help you to make it as accurate as possible and making as accurate decisions as possible? So I sense that there are so many brands that try to reach perfection in forecasting, and then Reshop, we have the same problem as you described it. The founder thinks, hey, I really know my business and how SKUs will sell in the future. And they do that until a certain stage. I always say, stay as long as you can in Excel, if possible. But then once you've scaled beyond a certain amount of SKUs or beyond a certain amount of sales channels, it just becomes increasingly so much more difficult to keep the overview of what is currently performing and what isn't. And then, Jack, in the case that you described, once an outlier event hits, right? Something unpredictable, it's more about how fast am I to make a decision here in terms of, okay, if this continues, I'm running out of stock and I have to take a decision to maybe use air freight instead of just sea freight coming from Asia and make that call, invest that money to not run out of stock. And in this case, it's more about being faster in the decision making, but not more accurate, because those kind of outliers are impossible to predict.
I like that. I'm trying to imagine a future where that decision's made for you, right? If you had enough information, like, I don't know, spike in sales is caused by TikTok shops, probably won't last. Let's respond to this, with respect to the source, right? With respect to all of the information that we have to inform the decision. And then you could share that information across all of your stores, right? So if you see that sales spikes from TikTok shops, for example, don't lead to sustained high velocity of sales, you can share that information to the decision making with the rest of the stores, right?
And I was just gonna hop back to like a previous question, which is like the initial go to market. And I mean, again, I think like the episode with PJ, if you haven't heard it, I think there's like a lot to learn from him. At least I felt like I learned a lot from that conversation. But there is a price market fit, or a pricing model market fit thing. I'm sure Jeremiah, Zach also have like, the nice thing here is that you actually have like a pretty broad spectrum of pricing strategies on like even in the three other businesses that are represented here, right? And I do think your pricing model does impact your go to market and which market you start with first. And it's just not obvious to like, I would take Zach's feedback and I agree with it, which is it's not obvious to me that the entry point you've chosen is where you're going to find the best fit given the pricing model. And I think like that market, like I think PJ's strategy is more effective in, because like what you're describing, which is, hey, like you need a buyer who wants to buy software at the price of value, which is a different type of buying psychology than I think, and not every part of the market behaves that way, basically. And so I think it's important to just be cognizant of which parts of the market are like buying in what types of ways. I mean, the most obvious thing to say out loud is like enterprises buy software on value, which is why a lot of SaaS companies end up selling to larger companies, right? Because it's like the way they buy is that internally they have to present a business case to someone. And then in that presentation of the business case, that's how you actually learn, how do I do this equation of value and price and things like that, right? And so like every buying conversation you have with an enterprise, by definition, comes with this idea of like, hey, seller, you need to give me the business case that I go to my boss with in order to buy this piece of software. That's very different from like the person who is like fast to adopt new software, where what I would describe it as like high trial people. So like people who are like at the bleeding edge, who like try things very fast and things like that. They're not thinking in the context of like, what is the business case? They're thinking in the context of, is this thing going to give me value or not? I just want to try it really fast. And I think you have fundamentally different buying psychologies in those two contexts. And so that's just something to think about in terms of like understanding the part of the market that you sell to in the US. Because there's like, again, there's just such a big spectrum that you want to choose how you go to market, basically.
Yeah, I think you mentioned, I think you said 3 years was kind of what it took you to like really break into that piece of the market and get to the point where you are today. I feel like it's probably something similar in the US, hopefully not 3 years, but it's going to be a longer cycle than like if you came in at $200 a month. That is a price point at which these brands would just try it. They would just say, that sounds interesting, I'll turn it on. Sean Frank on, I think it was in July, and he was talking about, I think he said anything under $500 a month, he'll just test it. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's interesting, he'll install it, turn it on, and see what happens. But that isn't the case at 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. There's a whole different process, and it's months and months and months to make that happen. So I actually think about that a lot in terms of there's something very appealing about pricing higher because you need less customers. It's usually stickier. It usually gets more deeply embedded into workflows, but the challenge is that's a long process, right? And then the flip side, and this is what we've done at No, is everything is inexpensive. And I mean, the reality is most brands are coming in at $20 a month to $300 a month, and then some of them will scale up over time. But at that price point, if you want it, there's no hesitation if you're doing 10 million a year in revenue. So I do think probably what you'll see is like you need to find that, like, where is their interest, and then really invest in that and commit to it for a year, let's say, before determining if that's actually the right market or not.
Jannik, what's your cost of delivery? Because I wonder how this interacts with free trials, right? Like if there was a 30-day free trial, you got integration into workflow, right? And then they're like, well, I can't not have this in my business. One of the best changes we made at Foreplay was switching from no credit card free trial to credit card free trial to weed out bad customers, to qualify people who were serious about buying the software. But that free trial, I think I think it's an important part of the onboarding to the software is getting your hands on it, trying it out, and integrating it with your workflow, right?
So I think for us to allow that, and I would be happy to do it, Jack, is we need a process which allows for complete self-onboarding. And the problem here is right now only that what we really do and why the onboarding usually takes 3 to 4 weeks is not the time invest the brand has to put into it. It's more like, hey, provide us that Shopify API and access, and then let's go, plus the other performance marketing channels. But Jack, the problem that we yet have is that we really, so to say, customize the forecasting models for the brands specifically to their needs. So there are actually people sitting down on our side people who've previously built the replenishment system for Zalando or for Blue Yonder for a few 100,000 SKUs simultaneously, and they actually take care that the forecast looks really good and works. And this is currently yet a case by case where we really look into, hey, this is a supplement case and it works differently than a fashion case. This is a fashion case, it looks differently than a customer that sells tents for cars. And therefore, I would love to do it, but we would yet need to crack the nut on how can we simply say, hey, this is a fashion case and it will always work, and we just press a button and the forecasting looks awesome. I think this is not where we are yet in, and this is why we invest more time in the onboarding process and cannot give free trials yet. But I would love to do it. Like, trust me, that's my next big goal here, because I would also say that there are so many brands on the go live that are like, oh fuck, I'm running out of stock in 60 days. I didn't know. On my bestseller. And then this is this aha moment where they for the first time realize how much cash they can make out of this. And then coming back to your feedback, Jeremiah, this is also a moment where they say, I'm willing to invest the money and I see the value add. And interesting is that we signed around, just in the last 7 days by coincidence, more or less roughly 180K ARR. And it was just 3 deals. And the funny side story here is, Jeremiah, that it didn't take a few months to sign them, but it was 2 touch points, 1 call each on a Wednesday and then signing on a Friday. So I have to say that what we observe, at least for brands here in Europe, is that if you talk to the right person at the right time where the pain is really high and the awareness, Zach, is also high enough, then it's a very, very short signing process. And that makes this whole thing that I'm working on so interesting for me, because it actually solves, from what we see, a really, really big pain point. This is why they sign so fast on so big tickets. But yeah.
In that context, how did they find out about you?
It was recommendations.
Yeah.
So that's like, I have to say, half of our new customers, they come from founder to founder recommendations. Next to the agencies or partners that refer us, it's mostly founders to founders. So in this case, it was, for example, one of them was Icon Amsterdam. I'm sure I can say it, like Ruben from the founder there. And they were like, he was pinging me on WhatsApp and was like, hey, yo, can you help me? You are working with the largest streetwear brands in Germany. I heard that you did good things there. And how can we start working with each other? So a lot of trust already before signing the deal.
I feel like you need to find the brands in Germany who know people in the US that they're friends with and go to those people. Like I feel like that's your entry point to the US market, is word of mouth. Because it is true. Like so those same brands, if they didn't find out about you from word of mouth, it may have been months-long sales cycle. But because you had done good work for somebody that they know, there's an immediate, as long as you can solve their problem, that's all that matters anymore. Like the trust aspect, it has been taken care of by somebody else.
Earlier, you were talking about how, if you mess up in Germany, your reputation is shattered. I think this reputation thing it's so good, because not only is it part of the growth of the business, but it's forcing you to have a great product that serves your customers so well. Whereas if you're in a huge market, you can, I know some brands that just churn and burn, right? They don't mind if they let people down, right? If they don't serve their customers very well, because the reputation component doesn't really matter. They can just move on to the next business. But I think this is such a great place to start before coming into the US market, coming in with a product that really solves the problem for your customer.
Yeah, I agree. I have not yet found for myself a problem that is so significant for so many SMEs. And I stumbled upon this from case to case. So it's just really cool to see that we have actually founders who, I told you this, Jack, in one of our previous exchanges, like, I'm not kidding. We have those 22 years old who are geniuses in marketing and creating great hoodies, for example, but they don't know at all how to use an Excel, to be fair. And then they just I have one founder who scaled to mid 8 digits, and he did before like handwriting reorders. I'm not kidding, guys. So you guys might be all smart enough to do the forecasting and the planning process yourself. I don't question that, but there are so many others that are not. And this founder, he did that in handwriting, and we helped him to really do this all by himself now continuously by just pressing the reorder recommendations. So what he did this year, actually, then when achieving a plus 30 million in net revenues, he was inviting me, Jack, to a party. And I was like, okay. And he was like, yeah, we have to talk. And I thought, okay, he will churn for sure. Like, I don't know. He was a little bit strange on WhatsApp. And so secretly, like, just writing, hey, just come over, please. I have to talk to you. So I came to his hometown, and he rented out this huge hotel room with champagne in it. And he was like, hey, Jannik, thank you so much for helping us on that journey, because without you, I wouldn't have done it, And this is actually then really cool to see that there are so many people who lack that experience, and we can really help them to bridge that gap.
I'm going to say something so controversial, but I'm not sure that I see someone from D2C Twitter doing that for one of their SaaS vendors.
I don't know about SaaS vendors, but back when I was an agency, it would happen to me. I get invited out to golf course, nothing like this, nothing as grand as that, but out to the golf course, out to the farm, to like spend time with the founders. It was lovely. I think it's the best part of it, to see the recognition and and get together. Right, a lot of this is online, but getting together with the people that you're doing business with is really nice.
Yeah,
hey, didn't you guys, Rashad? Didn't you rent a castle at one point and invite a bunch of people out?
Oh, dude, I mean, the other direction,
the other
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other direction, obviously. And by the way, like for our larger customers, I actually do get like that kind of thanks. I have yet to get the Jannik level, but like I get the silver version, not the sort of platinum version. But yeah, I just again, like I think Jannik, the thing about the US market is it is just there's just so many different pockets. Which I think is what makes building a SaaS business in the US so interesting, is you have to decide how you want to approach the market, what way, which approach you need to take, which area you want to go into first, what are the trade-offs of that area. Again, like I'm not trying to say anything good or bad about any one pocket. It's just that they all have different trade-offs. And so yeah, just being very explicit about your goals in terms of what you want to accomplish if you were to expand, I think is helpful. But I'm going to be honest with you, man, like in this conversation, now I'm even more in Zach's camp, which is like, I got to go to Germany.
Yeah. We founded the
like,
D2C.
I don't know what the hell is happening, but I want to sell to people who take me out for champagne. You know what I mean? Like, that sounds great.
Rishab, the same founder a few months earlier was calling me and was like, what the fuck is happening? Like it's a quite direct
Totally.
communication and feedback culture. You have the pros and cons about it, but I can just say that all of you, whenever you're in Germany, feel free to give me a call. We have a lot of great, cool activities that we have here in terms of also a D2C dinner. It's for ecom founders only, but all of you are always invited to join. We usually host it at the largest, so to say, spots in the big cities, and then we invite 50 to 60 ecom brand founders to come together to eat and enjoy a good night. So whenever you're in Germany, ping me up, and then we get together on that kind of event.
Zach, should we plan a trip?
Yeah, I'm down. I'll go to Germany.
I'm not joking. Like seriously, let's go in the next 8 months. Let's do this.
Okay, let's make this specific, guys, because we have our latest new joining customer is Hyrox, and we plan to do like one of these events now in Jan or in Feb. I mean it. If you want to come over, feel free to do it, and we will have a very, very nice 4 or 5 courses dinner with Hyrox and many other ecom founders. If you want to get the market dynamics and how this market works, I think it's a really cool spot because roughly 10% of the largest ecom founders in Germany usually join these evenings. So it would be really cool.
I mean, I'm a big Hyrox fan, so maybe I'll just go do the Hyrox. Is there a Hyrox that time?
I will check out. I think the Hyrox was just lately now in October in Hamburg, but there will be usually also a Hyrox in Berlin and in Munich. But Zach, we will make that happen.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
This is a good note to end on.
This
is solid.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. It was great. Thanks.